So what's up, guys? I was thinking of another video to do for this channel, and I came up with best gun type for the zombie apocalypse, so that's what I'm here to talk about. Now, I know there are several videos out there on different like blades and swords and stuff that'd be best for zombie apocalypse. I'm sure there's some on firearms, but I kind of want to do one of my own, and I'm going to stick to firearms. I might do another video on different medieval weapons, but Scholargrim's got a pretty good video on that, so I don't really think I need to do one of those. But anyway, when you're looking at a gun for any scenario, really any item for any scenario, you want to look at the characteristics of that item. So in this case, of the gun, and then look at those characteristics and what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and compare them to what you need them to do. Some desirable characteristics for a firearm that you might want in a zombie apocalypse would be ammo availability, lightweight, both the ammo and the gun. You want it to be compact and easy to carry. You want it to be accurate, of course. You want it to have decent range. It needs to be useful up close, though, and it needs to have a decent fire rate to assist with being useful up close, because you'll be facing hordes of zombies. You want to have a good ammo capacity, so you're not forced to reload every couple of shots, since there are probably going to be lots of hostiles. And of course, you want it to be lethal. So right off the bat, that pretty much gets rid of fully automatic weapons. And you're going to want to do that because while they are high casualty producing weapons, they're much less efficient bullet for bullet than other weapons. And in a zombie apocalypse where ammo is scarce and not being produced, or at least not in a high quantity, you're going to want high bullet for bullet efficiency. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of different gun types and address them each individually. Shotguns. Now, shotguns are going to have great ammo availability. They're everywhere, as far as whether it's 12 gauge, 20 gauge, whatever, you're going to be able to find shotgun ammo because America. Some of them can be fairly lightweight, while this could be kind of heavy, but I don't think any of them are, that I know of, are too excessively heavy. However, some shotguns can be quite long. Some ones like this are, I can't even get it in the shot entirely, are bird hunting guns. So they are quite long. So some of these wouldn't be super compact and easy to carry, but I think you could still use them if necessary, but they may not be the most ideal for indoors. You might want to go for some of the shorter ones, or like home defenders and things like that. Shotguns also have a decent accuracy as far as chance to hit. And what I mean by that is they're not extremely accurate, but because you're using shot, I'm assuming you're using shot, not slug here. Because you're using shot, there's all those little pellets flying out that can hit your target, and so your chance to hit is still pretty high as long as you're within range. So in that sense of accuracy, they're fine. The problem with them really comes with their range. Now, granted, they will still outrange a zombie because the zombie has to be right up on you to attack you. But the problem is that you obviously want to keep as much distance between yourself and your opponent as possible. It's not just a matter of being able to outreach him, but if you can outreach him by even more distance, you can have a much greater chance of surviving. Simply because, I mean, you see it all the time in movies and video games. Somebody is sitting here with their gun up, they're shooting zombies, just pop them away, and one comes up beside them, and like, oh, and they can't get to them, and they get eaten, and there's blood and gore. But one way to avoid that is simply to keep an even farther distance. You never really see that happen when some guy set up in a building with a rifle picking them off from 300-400 yards away. You really don't see that when they're up close trying to shoot them in the face with a shotgun. So while a shotgun wouldn't be your worst choice by any means, it actually does pretty well. You are limited to your range, and you might want to find something that can get you a little bit farther away, just so you have more time to react. As I was saying, though, shotguns are extremely useful up close because of their shot pattern. And they can be quite fast. It's like semi-automatic shotguns, or even your double barrel like this one. However, the problem you run into with double barrel shotguns like this is ammo capacity. You've got 2 shots and that's it. With some of your semi-automatic shotguns, you have a lot more, but even in a lot of your hunting shotguns, you're left with maybe 4 in the tube and 1 in the chamber, so you get only 5 shots. Now, there's some that have magazines attached, so you can have much greater ammo, but then your weapon starts to get bulkier and a little heavier, so that's something you'd want to keep in mind. As far as lethality, shotguns are no problem. As long as you're within the range of the shot, they're going to be lethal. Now, I would stay away from 410s simply because I don't think they have quite the lethality of a 20 gauge or 12 gauge, particularly your Judge or other shotgun pistols. They don't pack the lethality you would want, and they force you to be even closer because you have such a short barrel on those pistols. Speaking of pistols, now as far as ammo availability, handguns are going to have a great availability for most calibers. Of course, there's some odd calibers out there, but something like 9mm, 45, 40, things like that. There's going to be plenty of ammo out there for them. They're certainly lightweight. They're not very big. This is a Springfield XDS 9mm, so it's not a large handgun. But even if you get your bigger handguns like your 1911s or your full stacked ones, or your full size double stacked 45s, they're still pretty lightweight. They can get heavy for a handgun, but overall weight they're not too bad. They're compact and pretty quick. Of course, you've got some that are less compact than others. You get some revolvers that are your 12-inch barrels, not as compact. But most of them are quick. I would stay away from anything that's single action, of course. Obviously, stay away from your flintlocks, because they're super slow, low ammo capacity. They're accurate, but they're limited on range. Again, depending on the exact caliber and pistol, because some have longer barrels than others, your range is going to vary, and so is your accuracy. But I think you've got a decent range and decent accuracy. However, you kind of run the same problem you have with the shotgun. Even though you can outrange zombies, you're not keeping a massive distance, so you're putting yourself in a situation where you're closer, so the risk is much greater. While you can still sit back 20, 30 feet and pretty easily dispatch zombies, shoot them in the head, it's a little bit better if you can sit back 200-300 yards with a rifle or something. So I think handguns would do really well as a sidearm, which is often how they're used. But I wouldn't really make it your go-to weapon. But again, certainly great for sidearm if your main weapon gets tangled up, runs out of ammo, or you're too close quarters for it, and you've got the horde bearing down, and you can pull this out, and you can dispatch up a couple of zombies pretty easily, pretty quickly. So, yeah, I mean, these are great. As far as ammo capacity, that's kind of across the entire spectrum. I mean, this one has the extended mag, so it gets 1 extra bullet, so I have 8 rounds in the magazine. Standard mag comes with 7 plus 1 in the chamber, so, but they're double stacked where you can get like 15 or 16 rounds. So yeah, you can definitely get decent capacity, or you just have something relatively small like this. Now when it comes to rifles, you're going to have the best versatility, so I think rifles are going to be a best bet for a weapon in the zombie apocalypse. Now, personally, I would say wait for anything with a powerful scope. Now this is just a 22, so this isn't a particularly powerful scope, but I would say with anything with a super powerful scope, because while this is really good at long range, and I've been talking about how the farther you are away from the zombie and able to take them out, the better, you still need to be able to perform up close, and as far as a powerful scope like this, you just don't get that. Now, of course, some scopes are lifted and they have iron sights underneath, so that might not be so bad, but in this case, it's bolt action, so you lose out on fire rate, and you really don't want that. Now, I've talked about magazines. So when it comes to magazines, I would try to keep your magazines between 10 and 30 rounds. Now, this is a 30-round magazine for an AR-15, and so I've got 30 shots here, and after reload, that's potential dispatch up to 30 zombies. Now, that's, I mean, you're going to be in a high-stress situation, and you're going to be firing quite quickly, so you're probably not going to have that, one shot, one kill with every round. But the options are there. If you've got some 5-round magazine, you're probably going to run into some trouble. So like with certain handguns, you might want to avoid certain magazines that are, or certain guns that have 5-round magazines. However, if it's just a sidearm, something that's slipped into your belt or holster, and you've got a rifle that you're using to protect yourself while you're out scavenging for supplies or whatever, then yeah, that'd probably be fine. But at least your main weapon would have, I would suggest, have a 10 to 30-round magazine. The reason I wouldn't say any more than 30-round magazines, after that they get heavy. This is a fully loaded magazine. It probably weighs two and a half pounds, something like that. I haven't actually weighed it, so I'd have to check. But just guesstimating, somewhere between 2 and 3 pounds for a fully loaded magazine. Can you imagine if you had a drum mag that held 100 rounds? It'd be extremely heavy, and it makes your weapon much bulkier. So, and of course, this depends on the design of your weapon. Some weapons might have a design so that, you know, a 40, 50 round magazine doesn't get in the way so much. It doesn't affect the bulk, things like that. So, yeah, but I would suggest somewhere between 10 and 30 round magazine. So we were talking about how long guns are probably going to be your best bet because they're the most versatile. However, you are going to want to stay away from guns that are too long. Again, we mentioned compactness as a desirable trait because you're going to need to be able to move through a building. Now, while longer guns like this Russian SKS here are great for accuracy. Now, again, I already mentioned staying away from the high-powered scopes unless it's a specific weapon. But as far as your weapon to carry around every day for carrying during the zombie apocalypse, I'd stay away from this powerful scope. But anyway, your long guns are going to have better accuracy than your shorter weapons. However, you need to be able to use them up close. So, like, if I were to walk into a room like this, even now I've outfitted this one to work more like a sniper rifle. I've got the I changed the upper receiver and put a high-powered scope on it. The upper receiver's got the shell deflector to protect the scope, and I've taken off the bayonet for a bipod. So I've outfitted this one differently, but if you're to use it like it originally was, which is kind of your everyday battle rifle, it's really long and it's actually quite heavy. Now the scope and the bayonet add quite a bit of weight, but it's a heavy gun to begin with, and so you have to carry that all the time. So keep that in mind when it comes to weight. And I don't even have it loaded, so if you're carrying a bunch of ammo with it too, but it is fire decent caliber. But anyway, as far as the length of the weapon, it makes it hard to go through rooms and buildings. If you've ever seen like Band of Brothers, you see a lot of times when they're clearing the houses with their M1 Grands, they don't have them shouldered. They have them down here and they're walking through like this. It's because they have to. I was messing around with it in my my house, and I was walking around trying to, like, as if I was clearing the house, and I couldn't shoulder it. It was simply far too long. I was hitting everything. So I kind of brought it back here and put it under here, and then I could do it. And since you don't need as much accuracy in a building, it's not that big of a deal against people. Against zombies, you have to hit them in the head, so it is a much bigger deal. So you're going to want your weapon to be compact, so that you can shoulder. If necessary, you can use it in close ranges, but you also want to have decent range again. Something else that would be desirable in a rifle, and this would help with compactness, is to have a collapsible stock. Now, it's kind of hard to get to because I've got my sling around it. But that way, if you want it all the way out, you've got that. But if you want to slide it in so you get through building, be a little more tight, you can do that too. And overall, it's not a super long weapon, but it's got a long enough barrel that you can find where I normally put it. All right, but it's got a long enough barrel that you achieve accuracy with this at 300 yards, open sights. And I've got, this doesn't have any magnification on it, but I've got this reflex sight here. So yeah, accuracy is certainly achievable with this. Range is good, and it's good up close too because you can clear buildings, houses with it. Plus, it's semi-automatic. You can dispatch multiple zombies in rapid succession. Then I'm not saying it has to be like the AR-15 necessarily, but other similar platforms. If you had some sort of AKM or other AK-47 variant, something like that, it'd probably be decent. One, you could probably do that. I don't have it, but certain submachine guns would be okay. Something like a, well, it's technically not a submachine gun because it's not fully automatic, but something like the Chris Vector would be pretty good, not as far as the 45 caliber, so it's certainly lethal. It takes the same as Glock magazines, so magazines should be pretty available, and it can hold, some Glock magazines can get quite big, so it's got a, depending on the version, either a foldable or collapsible stock, so that'd be a great weapon platform as well. But that's the kind of idea. You want something you can use indoors, so if you're clearing a building like a grocery store trying to get food or any other building, you can use it, but if you're out in the open, you can hit them from far enough away that they're not really even a threat yet. Again, the shotgun and the handguns work, but they're much closer, and in order for you to be within range to use those effectively, they are you're gonna be in a situation where you're in a lot more danger simply because you are a lot closer to them. Plus, you can find all kinds of sizes of magazines for the AR-15. Same with the Chris Vector, because it's got the Glock magazines. You can have the 15 rounds, I think even 30 rounds. I think they even make some drum mags for them. Again, that affects weight and bulkiness. I probably wouldn't go that. Probably wouldn't go with the drum mag. Plus, guns like this are extremely accessorizable. Is that a word? Customizable? They're extremely customizable. Basically anything a Picatinny rail is. So I've got a for hanger because I like that. I like how it feels. But if you wanted a laser sight or a flashlight, in Zombie Apocalypse, I'd probably go with the flashlight. Throw that on there. You want something like this. Maybe you want some backup iron sights. Something like that. You've got it. You can do that. Plus, you have the sling, which a sling is something I would definitely do, because especially if you're carrying a secondary item, or a secondary weapon, if you're shooting and you run empty and there's a zombie here, or he comes to his door, he's far too close to you, can't turn your weapon, you can drop it, draw your handgun, and you don't have to worry about completely dropping your rifle. It's just going to hang like this, not going anywhere. However, you're probably going to want a quick release, because if your gun gets hung up on something, you're trying to get away, a zombie gets near you and you grab it in, you don't want to be held there and bit in the neck because the zombie's got a hold of your gun. So you're going to want something that can has a buckle or something, just quick release. Now I've got something on mine. I don't know that I'd count this as a quick release though, because I think it'd be hard to do in a high tense or high pressure situation. But here, this is a Picatinny rail mounted swivel for my sling here. But if I push the button in on here, maybe, yeah, push that in, I can pop it away. But so I have to push in the button and pull it, so it's not the easiest. So I'd still recommend like a buckle or something to get away. But again, you probably want that sling because it allows you to just carry it too. And keep in mind, it's something you're going to be carrying all the time in Zombie Apocalypse, because you've got to be prepared to face any dangers that might arise. So you're definitely going to want the sling to make it helpful to carry, or you're going to want to wear a sling to make it easier to carry, not helpful to carry. Assuming you've got your magazine in it, so you've got fully loaded magazines, 30 rounds, you've got this rifle platform. If you were to lose this, you lose your gun, you lose 30 rounds, and all this stuff is pretty scarce in Zombie Apocalypse, and you want to take care of it. So this keeps you from just being forced to drop it. In a lot of situations, when like you want to draw a sidearm or something. Plus, something else you might want to consider is a bayonet. Now, the bayonets can be extremely useful because if you can mount them to your barrel, you now have a melee weapon. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk too much about these kind of weapons, but I want to mention it because it's in relation to a rifle. And they can be extremely useful because if you do run out of ammo, or in the middle of reloading, or a zombie or something gets close, you can just stick him in the face with it and be done, go back to shooting the other ones. However, you don't want to keep it on there because bayonets affect accuracy quite a bit, and again, we already talked about you want high bullet for bullet efficiency, and so inaccuracy is just not something you want. Plus, it's going to make your weapon longer, and remember we mentioned we want compactness, so if you have a bayonet with a blade sticking out to here on it, you're going to add, depending on the size of the bayonet, of course, you're going to add 4, 6, 8 inches on there. Plus, there's another advantage of having a bayonet is, depending on the type of bayonet you have, you also have a knife. Now, some of them are just spikes and that's all, so they're not really useful by themselves. But if you get one that's a knife, you have a knife. So instead of being forced to carry your rifle, a knife, and maybe some longer reached melee weapon, like a homemade spear or something, you can carry just your knife, throw it on the end of your rifle when you need to, and now you've got it all in one, you're carrying less. And if you are forced to ditch your rifle because maybe it gets caught on something, the zombie grabs it, you use your quick release on your sling and get rid of it, you've still got probably your sidearm, but you also still have your knife, which is no reason not to keep it on your rifle at all times. So if you have to ditch your rifle, you still got your knife. And again, for the inaccuracy. But if you ever need to, slide it on and go. Maybe if you're going into a larger building or something like that, and you can counteract the length of your rifle and how much the bayonet adds onto it. by using the collapsible or even foldable stock, depending on your weapon platform. So let's say your bayonet adds 4 inches to length on your rifle. Well, I carry mine in the second position. If I close that, I mean, I'm not taking out 4 inches, but I'm taking out 2.5, 3. So I'm sort of mitigating the extra length added onto my rifle. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about weapon types within Zombie Apocalypse. Shotguns are good, handguns are good, but I think your rifles are going to be better. Something semi-automatic, something with a good range on it, but also good up close, compact, and easy to find ammo for, plus lethality. So that would kind of get rid of your 22s because, well, I think you could kill zombies with a 22. Depending on the amount of brain trauma it requires to kill one, it might be not enough damage, and at certain ranges that might actually bounce off the skull. Not something I've tested. I'd actually like to get a zombie kaboom head or something like that and test it, but those are expensive and I'm not monetized, so everything I do here is out of pocket, so I've got to keep expenses low. But anyway, yeah, so if you're going to face a zombie apocalypse or you want to prepare, I would say go with a rifle, something with good availability of ammo, compact, easy to carry, accurate, fast, and simple to use and clean too. That's for weapon parts. You might want to be a common weapon. It's a great thing about the AR-15. Almost everybody's got one, so you can find parts pretty easily for it. Anyway, I'll stop rambling on, and thank you for watching.